What's going on, Jeff?
Ah, ready to rock.
Well, I appreciate your time, first of
Sure.
all, and I've
My
been a big
pleasure.
fan, huge fan of Dokken for many years. So I sent over a few questions, but I just wanted to know, starting off, what really inspired you to pursue a career in music?
Well, undoubtedly, it all started when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. I was very, very young, but it was a huge impression. I remember I was already, by the time they were on Ed Sullivan, I already was very familiar with their music. I mean, I guess Meet the Beatles had only been out a few weeks, but I was really familiar with it. And just seeing them on that show cemented in my mind what a great gig that was, playing in a rock band. And even though I didn't start playing bass till 6 years later, really, again, I think that was the fuel that started it. Plus, I was as a little kid, I would sing along to the songs, and in fact, I had an upstairs neighbor who had a guitar, and he would have me come up and sing the Beatles songs. I was 6 years old, but I would sing the Beatles songs while he would play it, and I just think all that got very firmly planted in my subconscious, and by the time I was, kinda given the choice to start playing music, I took it.
Yeah. So did you pursue bass because of Paul McCartney? Maybe.
No, actually, I pursued bass because some guys came up to me on the playground. They said, "Hey, we're starting a band," and I used to go around with a friend of mine, and we would sing this beer commercial slogan. And when we did that, some guys heard it and they said, "Hey, we're starting a band. You want to be the singer?" And I was like, "Sure." And then they said, "Hey, we don't have a bass player. Do you want to play bass?" And I was like, "Sure." So I had a paper out at the time, and I bought a $35 Tiesco Del Rey bass and a $35 Gibson Skylark amp, and I was, off to the races. So that's how I started bass. They just asked me to play, and I just kind of fell into it. So
Awesome.
my love of bass has only grown over the years, and my appreciation has only grown. And again, it was only that started it.
That's awesome. What was your first band that you can remember? I mean, was that an official band or?
Well, I mean, my first band was when I was 6. I was in the Spiders with my friend Vic Holloway. I was the drummer, and he made like a fake
Was it
guitar
like
for himself.
was it
And
like an Air
we
Jam
had
band?
we had full, it was like Folgers
Mhm.
coffee cans, and that. So that was my sing. But we did have an original song,
Mhm.
which I used to remember the title. Tears Are Falling, I think was what it was called. Anyways, so I was thinking in that mindset. But my first band, the band that I was asked to join when I was 12, which was in 1970, um, that band never actually materialized, but I did start playing bass, and it got me playing bass, so that's great. The first band I really remember was a band called Mahogany. That was when I was probably 14, and we actually went out and did gigs and played parties and I remember that was my first professional gig. I made $9, and I thought,
Wow.
wow, it's cool.
Hey, at least you made something, right? Yes,
Yeah.
right. So, were you doing? Obviously, you were doing covers. What kind of covers were you doing back then?
Well,
Beatles.
back then, we would have maybe some Beatles, but even by this is now 1971, 72. This is so we wouldn't be playing Beatles covers. That was already kind of yesterday's news
Oh,
into a rock band at that time. So I remember us playing, Foghat, James Gang, um, what else? Uh, Oh, a lot of Creedence. Played a lot of Creedence. Lot of Creedence songs. Um, just kinda, the stuff that was happening at the time. Didn't get I mean, and then eventually I moved into starting playing, like Zeppelin and Purple and all that stuff. But that was another level. That was like the next level. That took another year maybe. So
you think that?
started off with
I'm
simple stuff.
sorry. I'm sorry. Do you think that like inspired you with the harmonies and stuff like that, and Dokken and some of the other bands that you were in? Like I even know, and I noticed in Foreigner, like you guys are like nailing it. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
guys like you took it to another level. You know.
I mean, yeah, and we don't ever use backup tapes. We all do it live. and that's something I've insisted on since day one. Um, so yeah, we always have great singers in the band, and we have some amazing singers in the band. I mean, Kelly obviously is one thing, but we also have Luis Maldonado, who is not only an insanely great guitar player, but he's a world class singer on his own. I mean, he could easily front any band. I mean, he's just that good. And to have him as one of the background singers, I mean, come on.
You
Then Bruce
as
and Michael,
well.
Bruce Watson and Michael Bluestein, they sing as well. So we have really strong background vocals. And I think my interest in that certainly started with the Beatles,
Mm.
because, I think that got me into harmonies by the time I started playing. Um, but then, I was really into Queen and that kind of, and those early Queen records really had a huge effect on me. Um, so I think yeah, Queen and the Beatles gave me my background vocal love, I believe.
Awesome. Yeah, when I think of you as a bass player, I think of you as like maybe you're not like a technical guy like Billy Sheehan or Stu Ham or
Yeah.
one of those guys, but you're like straight up rock guy, you know. And I love watching you perform too because you get right into it.
Yeah.
That's something I loved about Rev too because when I go to a show, for example, I don't want to see like, a jukebox, I want to see a show, right? And
Yeah,
that's
of
what I
course.
loved about kids. I mean, that's what inspired me when I was a kid, kind of same direction you had with the Beatles. I didn't know any of I didn't play guitar or whatever, but it was kind of the same thing for me that got me into music. But yeah, so when I go, I like to watch a show and I like to see the performers really get into it. And that's what I
Yeah.
love about watching you play.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all about the groove and making the music feel good. And bass playing should be. I mean, I love what Billy Sheehan and Stu Ham do. I
Oh,
really
absolutely.
respect and appreciate and love that.
Yeah.
Um, but I've never thought to incorporate that kind of thing into music just because it seems sort of its own virtuoso thing.
Mhm.
And I'm more into just a song structure and making the song right. So, I mean,
Cool.
if you can incorporate technical stuff into a song, I think it's wonderful. And
Yeah.
Billy's done there's some Mr. Big songs where he incorporates what he does into the song really well. Um, and yeah, I have infinite respect for that. But yeah, I mean, for me, playing bass on a recording, it's about making it feel right. And the pump of it, the pulse of it, making sure all that is right. And then the parts, whatever suits the song. To me, it's about the song. And
Absolutely.
so, I'm not a virtuoso, so I do what I do. I mean, I have my own technical skills, but I'm not a Billy Sheehan by any means, and probably never will be.
Yeah. I think that there is uh, maybe a balance that people need, like with technical skills and the songwriting aspect of it. Because you can get too involved in being so technical, which can
Think so.
really kill the whole vibe of the music and the song.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too.
I ran into that problem myself, because like I'm always trying to make something that's so like intricate and technical, and then some of the best songs were like three chords.
Yeah. Now, if I'm in my studio, for instance, and I'm working on something, and I think about a certain song that this might be something similar to, yeah, I'll listen to it. One of the beautiful things about Apple Music, you can just kind of dial it up and go and find it, which is wonderful. So I do that a lot. Um, but there's no one particular thing.
Right. That's interesting. Like before I do anything, I like to kind of just, get in the mindset and the headset, because especially playing in front of people, because I still get nervous. And how do you handle that? I mean, like obviously you played in front of thousands and thousands of
Yeah.
people. How do you deal with that kind of,
Um,
you know,
it just it kind of it's I've just gotten used to it, I guess, because I don't really get nervous. I get, excited and anxious to play, which I guess is nerves channeled a different way. Um, again, that's why I do need to really take care of myself on the road and when you watch what you eat, I definitely need to do my meditation and that kind of thing. Um, so yeah, keeping the mind and the body healthy are priorities, especially on the road. And those things tend to, and if you're in a good mental and physical space, you're ready to perform.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I totally agree with that. Now, of course, at this, time, I mean, maybe when you were first starting out, it was like all about partying or whatever, but at this stage in your life, it's about being clear-minded and focused, I would think,
Yeah.
taking
Well,
care.
you know what? Even even in the wild and crazy '80s, when I was a drinker and drugger, um, I would never do it before shows, ever. I was absolute. I remember one time I had one little sip of beer before a Dokken show in the '80s, and I remember it just made me so uncomfortable. So I even when I was at my worst, I never did it on stage.
That's good. Yeah, that's how I used to be too, because I don't drink or anything like that now, but I always made it like a rule, like with the band, not to do any of that stuff until after the show,
Yeah.
which seemed to work out pretty good. Now, obviously, getting into that area, music has definitely helped in your personal growth. Like for example, like self discipline, your dedication, and your focus, and helping you to grow as an individual. And I can say for me that it's definitely given me the strength to get through a lot of hard times.
Mhm.
And I was wondering in what areas that you think it's really helped you.
Playing music.
Yeah. And
Uh, well, I mean, music is therapy. It can definitely be therapy. And it's gotten me through some really rough times, either emotionally or, financial rough times. When you're in a financial rough time, knowing that music might get you out of it is a pretty helpful tool. Um, uh, Although in the early '90s, when I was worried that music wouldn't get me through, I guess that was a whole other thing. But no, music has a spiritual element to it, and um, as much as I make a lot of music, and I can't say it's all deeply spiritual or anything, but I try not to lose perspective of number one, what a great thing I have, that I'm able to do this for a living. I never lose sight of that gratitude is always there. Um, and then uh, and then I think just respecting music, by respecting it by giving it your best and paying attention to quality, not settling for crap, really being, not pushing artists beyond their comfort zone, but well, maybe a little bit beyond their comfort zone, but not to make them uncomfortable. I like to make artists feel creative and inspired. And I think that's important as a producer, especially. That's a really important thing. And that's where you use music as a inspirational tool. And it kind of becomes it sort of gets self-propelling after that. Once you get the ball rolling, there's a momentum about music that I find, where the writing kind of goes through you. You're tapped into something and it just kind of happens and you let it happen. And again, that's all just respecting the music and being grateful for it and doing your best.
and it also, yeah, I believe that it helps you to continue to go forward. You know,
Sure.
you don't see 60, 70-year-old rock stars way back when. Now,
No.
I think it's healthy. It's very, very healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh
talked
yeah.
to Lee Sarzo the other day. He's 73 years old.
I know. It looks 40. Yeah. Rudy is a freak of nature.
Yeah, he was definitely interesting to talk to. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful human being. Great player and just a great human being. Known Rudy for 40 years.
Definitely a privilege, to talk to any of you guys, because again, I grew up listening to you, and I've come to your shows before, and you know, it's just amazing. Also, the turn of how music has changed. Throughout the years, the
Yeah.
industry. You know,
Yes, it has.
and you can blame it on one thing or another. Like I know, like back in the '90s, you had grunge, which only lasted really a few years, and then nowadays it's like, in my opinion, there's so much garbage out there. It's hard to weed through the good shit, and it's hard to get to the good stuff. And then
Yeah.
basically you're not going to sell a million albums anymore unless you're
No,
unless you're
no, exactly. And budgets reflect that. Budgets are way smaller than they were back in the day.
yeah. So you put out an album now just to tour, and
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but it's adapting too.
it is. Yeah, it's the way of the industry, and the industry's in a lot of change because obviously everything is moving towards streaming, and the revenue from streaming for artists is pitiful. That's going to have to change, or something drastic will happen. So I think we're going to see some changes coming, on the business model, which I think is good. Hopefully, I hope it's good. I hope it ends up working to the musicians' benefit. We got some people fighting for it, so we'll see. But yeah, right now it's pretty screwed up, and the corporate nature of the major labels that they are so one thing. They're so really all about pop or hip hop or whatever, and there's no active rock
Yeah.
to speak of going on, and I mean, very little of it in major labels, and it's Foo Fighters maybe, but I mean, it's really really limited. There's no support anymore. So
It's sad.
I'm hoping somebody soon creative burst and comes up with something that in the rock field, maybe we won't notice it as rock because I'm too old, but maybe the young kids will respond to it, and hopefully then the business model will change and adapt to that. So we need another Beatles or Nirvana or Guns N' Roses to come along and shake things up. So, but it's got to be a younger band, and I hope it happens soon.
That's one of my questions too. I wanted to ask you if you think there'll ever be another rock star. Like you got like Glenn Zeppelin.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, listen, again, musically, we may not identify it as such because we come from a different era, but I do think somebody will come along certainly and amalgamate media and music and attention and image and all that kind of stuff. Sure, somebody's going to come along and do it. I mean, Taylor Swift does it in her own way in a pop world. Um, but I'm hoping, and I believe it will eventually happen. Somebody's going to take whatever you want to call rock, and they're going to take it to a next step. And again, maybe we won't like it or recognize it, but hopefully young kids will, and hopefully it'll start a creative burst that will get the industry out of the rut that it's in, because the industry is not designed to uh, promote rock music right now. Rock music is considered a very low thing on the totem pole, and hopefully somebody will come along and change that.
yeah, I hope so too, because dedicating my whole life to music, and yeah,
Well, let me a bunch of 20-year-olds, and I'll get them together, and we'll do something cool. I would love to produce a young band that is new and creative. That would be wonderful.
so that's another aspect, obviously, for you is production. I went to Musicians Institute for music production. And how do you feel about analog and digital? I mean, are you more the analog side or the digital side? How do you feel about the AI and stuff like that going on right now?
Well, AI is a whole other thing. That's a scary thing because AI can actually write songs now. That's terrible.
That's ridiculous. Oh,
Well, yeah, it's ridiculous, but you watch, it's going to put a lot of people out of work.
research.
Um, because I mean, if you know, you don't need a composer to compose crappy elevator music, and that's what's going to start happening. AI is going to start doing all that, and then they're going to get a hit single from an AI written song, and then they're going to do more of that, and oh, it's going to be a nightmare. Um, but how do I feel about analog and digital? Well, I mean, digital is the practical reality that we deal with now as a recording medium. I love Pro Tools. I really do. I love the visual aspect of it where you can edit and see the waveforms and all that kind of stuff. I love all that. I still love the sound of analog and I love going in and listening to my vinyl records. Um, I have a separate system for vinyl in our living room. And I love all that. But again, digital is reality. So for me, where I've come to is I have, as you can see, I've got a lot of really cool mic pre's and older stuff
Yeah, I was
that I
looking.
use as the front end before Pro Tools. So I have great analog gear going into Pro Tools, and because Pro Tools is digital, and when you're at 96K, you pretty much what you put in there, it's that's what you got, and it stays that way. So as long as I have this wonderful front end analog stuff, it digital works really good for me.
Yeah, so it definitely matters what goes in,
Oh yeah,
'cause,
that's everything.
yeah, that's what, if you got garbage going in, that's what you're gonna get, no matter
Yeah,
how
right,
much, technical ability there is.
right.
And for me right now, like I've been relying a lot on digital, unfortunately. But I have a basic setup or whatever, but it's so easy to kind of get lazy, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's so impractical to have an analog recording rig these days. It's hard to do. I mean, our guitar player, Luis, the guy I was telling you about, was a great singer. He actually carries around a cassette 4-track with him for his writing and, recording rig for the road. And he loves it. I couldn't deal. I mean, I have my Pro Tools rig on the road that I use and I love, but I couldn't deal with that analog thing, but he loves it. So if you're willing to deal with the, problematic aspects of analog, it's great. But I mean, what am I going to do? Get a 24-track machine in here, and I mean, that would just be that
and
would
I,
be yeah, it'd be kind of a nightmare. You got to know how to clean, calibrate it, do the heads, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, again, if you have great analog stuff going in Pro Tools is wonderful.
yeah, I use Ableton Live. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I used to love that. I used it only as a loop program years ago, but I loved it for that because it was kind of the first thing for Macs. Like, do
Mhm.
you remember the program Acid? That
Uh,
was this is right
yes.
around 2000 or in those years. But Acid was only available on PCs. You couldn't get it on a normal computer. So Ableton was the first one to do that, and that was wonderful.
Yeah, I liked Ableton because it was universal. I could go back and forth,
Yeah.
between a PC and a. But
It is a great program. I do like Ableton. I just haven't used it in a long time.
yeah, I'm just more comfortable with it. Like Pro Tools is definitely awesome. I wish I really. I guess they're all similar, if you just take the time to figure it out. But I just haven't really cared to figure it out. I'm really content with Ableton Live or Logic, that I use.
Right.
So how do you stay grounded? Instead of getting like a big head. Obviously you played in some huge bands. I mean, how do you keep yourself grounded?
Well, I mean, number one, the meditation I think really helps with that. Really clears you out a lot. And I'm very, very, very ritualistic and religious about doing my meditation. I do it very regularly. But I mean, staying grounded. I mean, I just don't take a lot of it too seriously. The accolades and whatnot. It's great. I love it, but I kind of recognize where it's at, and not. I mean, I'm also very familiar with my own faults, so that kind of keeps you grounded and down to earth. Um, and again, I just don't take it too seriously. I mean, I want this to be fun, and I cannot stand the egotistical rock star thing. I just that turns me off really bad. So I would never want to be that guy.
So did you ever
Um,
have to go through that situation with an egotistical rock star guy?
have I ever been through situations with egotistical rock star guys? Yes. I mean, I kind of made a career of it, but yeah, yeah. No, I've had plenty of those.
Yeah. So, and touring with other people too, in a band, that's got to be difficult too. Being on the road for like 13 months or whatever. Or, how do you deal with that unless you have your own tour bus?
Well, the thing is, that's one of the beautiful things about Warner.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of time together, but everybody is just a wonderful human being. There's no jerks in the crowd. Um, we love one another. We respect one another. We are all very grateful because we know what a good gig we have. And we take it seriously enough to make sure that we're good, but not so serious that it's miserable. And it's a great situation. I mean, it would be very hard for me to go back to the kind of tour like in Dokken. It would one day, Don would come on the bus in a grumpy mood and throw everybody's vibe down and you know, I don't know if I could deal with it anymore. So I'm very grateful in the position I'm in. I don't know if I could ever go back to a more confrontational, conflicted, hostile environment. I don't think I could do that again.
So I know you're not trying to badmouth anybody, but speaking of like Doc and so you probably can't see yourself doing anything with him again, I would assume.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, I kind of can't see us touring, but who knows? Um, I mean, I'd love to do one last Dokken record,
Yeah.
but even that is logistically getting really difficult. I mean, Don lives in New Mexico now, and I mean, we get along fine, but
And even
it
singing.
would be really hard to do that now. I mean, because I think the point of doing a Dokken record would be to make it collaborative, and I wouldn't want to be in a situation where George and I just write the music, send it to Don, he does it, and then that to me wouldn't be as satisfying a Dokken record. I guess if we had to do it that way, we would. But I would love to do one more collaborative Dokken record where when we're working on the vocals, Don and I are getting together and doing it right. Um, I would love to see that happen at some point, but again, logistically, it sort of looks not very doable, and we'll see. I mean, Foreigner is going to be touring. It isn't going to be doing long tours after 2024. Starting in 2025, whatever shows we do are going to be very limited and probably, I mean, I'll have a much more open schedule.
I
So
was just
maybe,
gonna ask you about that. Did you guys do a farewell tour like recently, or
well, we're on a 2-year farewell tour, and that doesn't mean we're going to go away after this year. But 2024 will be the last year that we do a full on 9 months of the year on the road kind of thing. And so that's what we mean by a farewell tour. Um, and so, but that'll end at the end of 24. Then in 25, I'm not sure what we're doing yet, show wise. I just know it's not going to be the big long touring kind of thing, which does mean I'll have more time in my schedule to maybe pursue some of these other things. And the Dokken record would be a great pursuit. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. I just don't know at this point.
can I ask you, are you guys writing anything new with Mitch for Foreigner, or is
Well,
it?
there are some songs floating around that Mick wrote years ago, but they were unfinished, and we've kind of taken them. We have a few of them that we're kind of working on. There's no real time schedule about it, but I would love to see something come out this year of some of this stuff because it's some good stuff. Yeah, well, that won't have the new stuff on it, but yeah, that's something we do. I would love to finish and hopefully we'll do it. Maybe that's what we do in 25. Not sure.
That's awesome. Now, what are you doing outside of Foreigner? Obviously, you said Reb's going to be swinging by.
Yeah, Reb is coming on Sunday, and he's going to spend a week here, and we're going to start writing the next Black Swan record, which I'm sure won't come out till well into 25. But we're going to start writing that, which I'm very excited about. I love doing the Black Swan records because I love Reb, I love Robin, and Matt is just great. So that's a fabulous outside situation that I do. The End Machine record is the single just came out January 15th. It's a song called Silent Winter. We're getting a phenomenal response from that, so we're very, very excited. There's another single coming on February 15th. It's called Killer of the Night, and then the record comes out, I believe, March 8th. And the record's called Quantum Phase, and we are so excited about it. We have a new singer by the name of Girish Pradhan, who is absolutely beyond phenomenal. I mean, this guy is just amazing, both as a singer and a writer, and he's a sweetheart of a guy. So we kind of feel like we hit the lottery on that one. And so I'm excited about the End Machine. The record's coming out. We'll see how it does, but I can't wait to do more with that. So I'm very excited about that. And then I've got Revolution Saints, which is coming out. The record we did a while back, but we're also talking about recording another Revolution Saints record, and this time maybe Joel and I participating in the writing. So hoping that happens. That was supposed to start around the summertime. So lots and lots of projects coming up.
About LNP, you gonna be doing anything again with Lynch anytime?
I don't think we'll do another Lynch Pilson record. Actually, George just came over on my birthday a couple days ago, and we were talking, and we were like, "Yeah, we're kind of good right now. We've kind of we kind of made our statement with the M Machine, um, and we love to work together. And it doesn't take much to get us to come together and work. But I think we're gonna wait for something cool to come along for our next project together, be it another M Machine or maybe maybe a Dokken record at some point. Who knows? But I'm not worried. There's a lot of music coming and plenty to do.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye out for everything. Um,
Cool.
I want to thank you sincerely, for your
Oh,
time.
my pleasure, man. Great. And good luck with this whole project. I
Yeah,
think it's fascinating.
passionate about it because I think it's important, that like I feel like music has kind of lost its direction right now, and I feel that people need to hear from the whys, and you guys have been through it all, you've been through the changes of the whole music industry and everything, and there's a lot to learn, from you guys. So I'm gonna do my best, to do it justice.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. This has been very great, and I appreciate your time. And I will hopefully talk to you again in the future. And best of luck on everything.